This is Drew Sagawa from Calvary Chapel at the Cross. We are doing a test again on our various channels, and we want to quickly test out things with our video capacity, but also want to take this time to encourage someone that might be watching or listening. And you might see this on the screen here, but we're going to be looking at Luke chapter 10. And Luke chapter 10 in the Bible, this is one of my favorite passages. This is a passage in the Bible. It's Luke 10, verses 38 to 42. You might want to be able to listen to the voice of God. You might want to hear the words of Jesus. You might hear of songs or people saying, I need to sit at the feet of Jesus. Well, this is where much of that comes from. And it says here in Luke chapter 10, verse 38, now it happened as I went that he entered a certain village, and a certain woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary, who also sat at Jesus' feet and heard his word. And one of the things I've loved about this is the fact that Mary heard his word. In the original language, it speaks of her continuing to hear the words of Jesus, continuing to listen to his voice, sort of like how we might spend time with the Lord in prayer, not just telling him what to do. Obviously, we can't, but to listen for his voice as he might speak to our hearts, and spending the time in his word that we might hear what his Spirit wants to speak to us. So maybe someone needs to hear that. In verse 40 says, but Martha was distracted with much serving, and she approached him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Therefore, tell her to help me. And when Martha said this to Jesus, in the original language, it's interesting too, because she actually is trying to command Christ. She's telling him what to do, which never works, right? So, therefore, tell her to help me was stated by Martha as a command to Jesus. But look how he responds. Verse 41, it says, and Jesus answered and said to her, Martha, Martha, you are worried and troubled about many things. But look at verse 42. But one thing is needed. So what is that one need that you and I have? And when you look throughout the entire Bible, in the entire Bible, there's only one place where Jesus says that there's one need for you and I. And what is that? That's depicted, look at verse 39. That's depicted as Mary sitting at the feet of Jesus and continuing to hear his words. Listen, that's our ultimate goal in life. That's the one thing that you and I need. There are a lot of things that we might consider needs, tons of wants, but the one main need, according to Jesus, and the only place in the Bible where he says there's only one thing needed, is found here in Luke 10, verse 42. But one thing is needed, and Mary has chosen that good part, which will not be taken away from her. And when Jesus is saying that Mary has chosen that good part, this is speaking of the fact that Mary had to force Mary to sit at the feet of Jesus in order that she might hear and continue to hear his words. And notice he says, which will not be taken away from her. So that's it for me. This is a little video test that we wanted to do, but hopefully to encourage somebody out there. And if you're listening right now, continue to stay at the feet of Jesus. Ask him to speak to you. When you're reading his word, read his word, but take the time also to listen to what he has already said and wants to speak right now to your hearts. So that's it from me. That's it for our test too.